One of the great encouraging things that is happening online is that young people are seeking Jesus Christ. And one of the great, more depressing things that's happening online is they've got a whole range of things from which to choose. And some of it is super, super anti-Christian. Some of it's cleverly anti-Christian. Some of it's the same kind of tired arguments. If God is all good, why does he allow bad things to happen? But if you're new to Christianity, that could be a stumbling block. And there's a way to address that. And there's also, though, really well-meaning, and I do think this young Catholic priest is really well-meaning. And he takes a question that is not really about Christianity. It's about Catholicism, because Catholics pray to Mary. And he has this brief explanation of this I want to share with you. But I mentioned this encouragement that young people are going to YouTube and they're looking up phrases like, is Jesus real? Where do I learn about Jesus? Did Jesus live? Are Catholics Christian? Right? There's all these questions either about the faith or about subsections of the faith or denominations of the faith. And that's encouraging to me. There's also people who are using the same arguments that we use time and time and time again. Well, why does a good God let bad things happen? This guy did this video the other day, and it's gotten a ton of traction. It was, God's either really mean or really stupid. If he's dumb and doesn't know that evil exists and can't confront evil, then he's not a God I want to worship. And if he lets evil exist, well, then he's mean and he's not a God I want to worship, or he doesn't exist. Clever. But when you confront this through a little common sense, let's think about this. How would you keep your kids absolutely safe? Absolutely safe forever? Well, you might take your house and you might live in a very remote area. Okay. Maybe safe from people maybe breaking in. And then what else would you do? Well, you want to make sure there's no sharp things in your house, because your kids might accidentally cut themselves, right? You want to keep them safe from harm. Like maybe paper cuts. I mean, those things hurt. Oh, not that level harm? So what harm? Oh, just death? Okay, well then let's make sure that they don't eat anything in there and just take foods through liquid, because you don't want them choking. You don't want that to be a possibility. Certainly can't have them taking baths. They could drown. Oh, and electricity, that stuff can kill you. In fact, your house could burn down if you had electricity. So maybe you should just have a wood stove. But hold it, wait a minute. Wood stoves, wow, those things can spark up into the chimney. Now you have a whole house fire. Well, we can't have that. Maybe you shouldn't have heat. But wait, then people would starve to death or maybe freeze to death. You can't keep people perfectly safe. God could. Okay, let's say God did that. There's going to be no challenges. There's going to be no way that you can possibly be harmed. What are we at that point? We're kept pets without freedom, because the only way for God to do that would either say, you can throw yourself off of a high building and nothing's ever going to happen to you, in which case we can't even experience failure. We can't grow. We can't adapt. We're veal. You'd become emotional, spiritual veal with no muscle, spiritual, mental, or otherwise. Is that kindness? You can examine these questions night and day, but it always comes back to this. God gives us free will because he loves us. If you took your kid in order to protect them, move them to a remote area, I don't care. You're not having friends because you could have a friend steer you wrong. I don't care. You're not going to have electricity because electricity could burn you. I don't care. You're not going to have solid food because you could choke on it. You don't love them. You fear losing them. So there's these really well-meaning people in these discussions on YouTube, and praise God for this. And this young Catholic priest, I think, is really, really well-meaning. And I'll show you what he said here in a second into this answer of why do Catholics pray to Mary? I think it's an interesting discussion, but I just have this one question. Does Jesus Christ need Mary? I'll show you this video here in a second. God did give us the ability to overcome great illness. God gave us the ability to use the designs of our body to understand how we can become better at healing. And the big government systems sometimes do not want this to happen. Do you know what a stem cell is? Right? It is when a baby is built, from ground up, the stem cells do the work. God talks about knitting us together in our mother's wombs and counting every hair on our head. It's the stem cells that actually build anything from fingernail to skin to heart. They're these amazing cells that are little builders, like builder bobs. And in America, these stem cells you're not able to use them in the way they do in Mexico. So I work with a company called Renew.Healthcare. I've become principally friends with the guy who's the managing director, Steve. I've been down there, 2 or 3 times, going back for another session. And what they do is they pay for the birth cycles of women. And in that return, they get their placentas and umbilical cords. And Renew monitors the health of the women before the birth, then the child and the mother after birth to make sure that the stem cells are super high quality. They take them down to Mexico where they can legally do this in a lab, which most of the doctors there are from America. The surgeons, a couple of them are Harvard certified surgeons, right? And they culture these in a lab. So when there's something really bad that happens, they can help you rebuild. For instance, traumatic brain injuries. A woman was hemispherically paralyzed. She went to Renew. The stem cells did their work of destroying inflammation, rebuilding her body. She walked out of there in not that long a period of time. There's pro golfers who go there all the time because their line of work is repetitive stress injuries. They're always down getting their backs worked on because they're not going to have surgery. They can't be off the circuit that long. Secondly, if you're a pro athlete having a bunch of surgeries, your career's over. Now, you may not be a pro athlete, but you might be facing surgery and you might not need it. The stem cells might be able to heal you. They'll tell you if you can. Go to renew.healthcare. It's RENUE.healthcare. RENUE.healthcare. Tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family, and they'll tell you if they can help you. Renew. RENUE.healthcare. I don't know this guy. I don't want to judge. I just want to discern. To me, it seems like he means well. It's a Catholic priest answering a question, and I think creating an even bigger question.
Why do Catholics pray to Mary? Look at it this way. I'm a priest, right? So people often ask me to help with lots of different things. They email, they call, they text, but sometimes I get busy and I fall behind on requests. So you know what people do? If I'm not responding, they call my mom. They call my mom, then she calls me and says, hey, so-and-so has been trying to reach out to you. Can you please get back to them? And you bet I get back to them right away. Sometimes the fastest way to the Son is through the mother. And there's something beautiful about that. God chose to become a baby. He became part of a family. He had a real mother. That's the basis of Christianity. So why would we think it would be so different for Jesus and Mary? Sometimes the fastest way to the Son is through the mother. Praying to Mary makes all the sense in the world. Hope you found that helpful. Follow for more.
I think he means well. Does Jesus Christ need Mary? Nope. Jesus is part of the Trinity, the Godhead. Father, Son, Holy Spirit has always existed and always will exist. They didn't need us. God didn't. I shouldn't say they. God didn't need us. He wanted us. This takes a construct of human need, time, schedule, and it puts it on an almighty, omnipotent, omniscient God who has always existed and always will exist, who didn't need time. Now think of this. Did God need a watch? Did he need day and night? Otherwise, he'd get deeply confused. He didn't need any of those things. How do I know this? Because he didn't have it until he made us. He did this for our convenience because we get busy. Do you actually think that God is busy? I mean, I know when I'm in the studio all day, right? If we have a long shooting day and I walk outside, oh, wow, it's dark. Or we'll come in the morning and it's a beautiful blue sky and I can't wait to go running that night. Even if I'm in the studio a couple hours, I get to go home and go running. And I walk outside and, oh, wow, it's raining. I didn't know that because I've been locked inside here. God knows all these things. God's not busy. He doesn't know busyness. I mean, if you were to say to God, hey, you're running out of time, he'd laugh. What do you mean I'm running out of time? I am time. Things last as long as I want them to last. Things take as long as I want them to take in my, to my glory, to my needs, not yours. So the very idea that Jesus Christ is in heaven busy, too busy for us, until Mary nags him, I mean, that makes Jesus very, very small, and it also escalates Mary. Mary was a woman who was selected for a very special task. She had great faith, and her faith was to accept this task. And that was the faith. To have an angel come to you and explain that you're going to give birth to the Messiah, the one who will rescue all of us, and you are unmarried, you haven't had sex with your husband, and you're going to accept this knowing how people are going to view you. It was her faith and her faithfulness, I think, that was the reason God chose her, just like he chose Abram, who became Abraham, because of faith. But Mary did not become a deity. There's nothing in the Bible about Mary becoming deified. Now, I understand that Catholicism will take people like this and raise them up to saint levels. I'm not here to criticize the Catholic Church. People do what they do. But I am here to criticize the very notion that Jesus Christ, who has always existed and will always exist, who brings dead bones back to life, who himself conquered death, who himself paid off our debt. He was our propitiation for all the sins that ever happened or ever will happen, ever. Just forgets to text people back. Jesus is not small. And I don't think Mary is a deity running around and nagging her son in heaven. Don't forget to answer that prayer. This is the Todd Herman Show. Please go be well, be strong, be kind, and please make every effort to walk in the light of Christ.